Take a brief break, or I'm going to take a brief break. I always love it how people say, we're going to take a brief break when you didn't make the call. So I'm going to take a brief break from the Gospel of John. I got to be with a group of pastors on, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and I'm okay after that. It all worked out well. And one of the passages that we studied was this passage, and I'm seeing so much great stuff in this text. I'm thinking, wow, I got to change. So we're going to go with chapter 15. And I'm thankful that I was able to switch glasses when I shouldn't have. All right. Oh, there are the words. Okay. So Jesus, he's talking to the Pharisees and the teachers of the law. Everybody can listen in, but he's really trying to jab them. And he did that frequently as you follow the gospel texts. So Jesus continues. Now he's trying to communicate. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So the father divided his property between them. Now, we have to understand what's going on here. 2 sons. Now, we don't know, what happened to the rest of the sons, if there just weren't anymore, or his wife had passed away. But he's got 2 sons. Within the culture, okay, sons were how you passed down the inheritance. So, the younger son, to paraphrase, "Dad, how you doing? Okay, are you sick? Oh. So you're not going to die soon? Okay, well, Dad, I mean, I get 1/3 of the estate because within the culture, the older brother always got the double share. So there's just 2 sons. The older son gets 2/3, the younger son gets 1/3. It's just the way it was. That's why you never want to be the youngest, Okay, I'm the youngest. Okay, thanks, Mom. She's watching, of course. But, what a terrible thing, right? So Dad, you're not going to die soon. But Dad, I want my inheritance now, and you're not going to die. Okay, Dad, if you're not going to die, can I just have my share of the inheritance now? Because I don't want to wait until you die. I want it now. Culturally, this was the worst thing you could do, to dishonor your father like this, saying, "Dad, I kind of wish you were dead, because if you were dead, I would get your stuff, and that would be really good for me. I would really like that." What a horrible thing. Dad, seeing you haven't died yet, no respect. This son does not have any kind of connection to his father at all. Now, I don't think that the son one day, this younger son, suddenly changed in his thinking toward his father and woke up one day and said, "Wow, I want stuff." This was growing in his life. So he was probably always this way toward his father. Now, what's really odd to me in this for the sake of the parable, is that the father doesn't fight this. The father doesn't say, "You scurrilous, terrible son, how dare you insult me like this? How dare you treat me as if I were already dead? Get out! Get out! I disown you." That's what should have happened. Culturally, that's what would happen. But this father, what does he do? Okay, he takes an accounting somehow and he divides his estate. The older son gets 2/3, younger son gets 1/3. Now, not long after that, the younger son got together all that he had and set off for a distant country. And there he squandered his wealth in wild living. Seeing that his father's assets were likely in grain, fruit, and livestock, edible things, the younger son must have had a decent measure of selling stuff off. Kind of like, "Hey, I'm having a moving sale. Here's all this stuff that my dad just gave me because I hadn't split the inheritance. And so we're going to have a yard sale." When you go to a yard sale, what do you look for? Bargains. Full price is never paid at a yard sale. You look for bargains, maybe half price. Now, maybe the son, stuff isn't selling quite well enough. When you have a yard sale and things haven't quite sold yet and you want to get it sold, what do? You cut the prices. Do you ever yard sale anything that you value? Not usually, no. So in doing this, what is the son saying to the estate that his father left him? He didn't care. He didn't care anything about the stuff his dad had given to him. So he sold it all off. Now, I can't help but think with this, if he didn't sell some to his older brother, so maybe his brother got the entire estate, I don't know. But the younger son, he insults his father by saying, Dad, I wish you were dead. And then, Dad, I'm going to treat with disrespect all the stuff that you have given to me. Okay, you see how bad this is getting? Now, in our society, we say that's terrible. In their society, it was the worst thing that could happen, the worst thing a son could do. He abandons also every aspect of his heritage, even culturally, because he goes off into a distant country, faraway place, okay? Long, long journey. And you can't get back easily because there were no planes, trains, or automobiles, none of that kind of stuff. So he goes there, and it's wild living. He parties until he drops. Now, think of the person who goes about just scattering seed all around. It doesn't care. It's kind of what this young man did with the wealth that he had gotten from selling off his father's estate. Terrible. What a fool. Now, I was going to use a different word, but I'm trying to be careful. Understand that biblically the word fool does have a moral connotation which is not good. So if you're a fool, it's not just that you're really dumb, it's that there's a negative moral quantity to your dumbness. After he spent everything, we don't know how long that took. There was a severe famine in that country, and he began to be in need. Spent everything. Wasted it all. Didn't save anything. What a fool. There was a famine there. Notice it was a faraway country. Guess where there probably wasn't a famine? Probably wasn't a famine back home where his dad was. So maybe some things he thinks about. If he had stayed home, he would have had it pretty good. I mean, even if he just gets a third of the estate, it's pretty good. No famine, you don't lose everything. In this location, he had no support system whatsoever. Okay? As parents, we really hopefully don't mind if our children come to us and say, man, can I get some advice from you? What do I do with this? I used to do that with my dad all the time. The guy knew everything about cars. If I had a car question, I'd call my dad. If I had a computer question, I'd call my dad. He was great with this stuff. But this young man, he's there, he's by himself. He has no support system whatsoever. So he went out and he hired himself to a citizen of that country who sent him out to his fields to feed pigs. So he can't go home. Now, he doesn't dare go home. If he goes home, it's going to be really bad. It's a shame culture. And anybody who would see this young man would just shame him, turn their backs on him. So he really can't go home. So he does the next best thing. He goes out and he's looking for work. Have you ever tried to find work in a recession? Years ago, when Ann and I were living up in northern Maine, there was an Air Force base, Loring Air Force Base. And basically, pretty much when we were arriving or just before, they closed the base. The local economy lived on the income from the soldiers and the airmen on the base. I'm sorry, they're airmen. I said soldiers. Shame on me. If I've offended you, please forgive me. But, and up there, and I was looking for work. I couldn't even get Burger King to hire me. I had a college degree. Not even Burger King, and there was no work. So this guy, he finds a job. Now, it says hired, and it's really, really great. At some point, if you ever want to learn how to get into the Greek, I can show you how to do that. The word here for hired means he bound himself to this guy. So it wasn't just like a day labor. It was almost like a slave relationship. So he hired him. This guy, the citizen of the country, was joined to him like glue. He sent him to his field to feed pigs. Now, the Greek here, send him to his field, has the strong implication of like sending somebody home. Like when you've been really bad at school and they send you home. It's the kind of idea. Now, so check this out. He is sent home to the pigs. So it's like, hey, buddy, you know where your home is now? It's with the pigs. And for a young Jewish man, what a terrible thing. Pigs were unclean. You didn't want to be around them. Okay? So he's totally humiliated. His new home is with the pigs. So now as he's feeding the pigs, he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. Now he must have had some kind of food, but you study the pods. This is so cool. Okay, these were like locust pods or something. There are a couple other different plants. Cardamom, I think, was one of them. But what they would do with the pigs as they were preparing them for slaughter, they would feed them these things because they were a little bit sweet, and it was believed that these things they would feed the pigs would sweeten the meat of the pigs. So the pig meat would taste better. So that's what they would feed them. Now, this food is still eaten by the very poor in some cultures. And I wonder if this isn't communicating to this young man that there is no sweetness. And maybe that's why Jesus includes this particular kind of food, because there was no sweetness left to his life anymore. All the sweetness, all the flavor of his life was gone. And then he looks at the pigs. Pigs are, they're munching. The pigs are gaining weight. He's not. The pigs at least get some food that gives some sweetness to their lives. He's got nothing. And the pigs had somebody watching out for him. So it wasn't that he was just feeding the pigs. He was like called a swineherd, like a pig shepherd. That was his job. And the pigs were doing a lot better than he was. At least they had somebody looking out for them. He had nobody who cared about him, nobody looking out for him. So now Jesus keeps telling this story. And all the Pharisees and the teachers of the law are going, yeah, that young man's getting what he deserves. Yep, I hope the story gets worse, because he was a sinner and they despised him, even in the story. He was valued less than pork, even bacon. He was valued less than even pork. And one day, he's there. And he comes to his senses. It's like, what a fool I've been. How many of my father's hired men have food to spare? Okay, the idea is not just food to spare, plenty of food. They got leftovers, and they get to take home. And here I am starving to death. He had lost everything. He lost his relationship with his family when he abandoned them. He lost all of his money, all of his wealth. He lost all sense of respectability. There was nothing left of sweetness to his life. He was just there. He was just done. His home, his society is with the pigs. He had no home other than bedding down with pigs who were of greater value than he had made himself. Now notice, he had made himself of less value than the pigs. It wasn't done to him. Comes to his senses. This is horrible. Look what I've done. You don't see any indication that he's blaming anybody else for this. Okay, what have I done? It's my fault. I have done this. He figured it out. So, he says, I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired men. He understood the extent of his sin, not just against his father, but against God himself. The stench of his sin reached the heavens. Now, the guy's with pigs. How often does he shower? Probably not very often. He smells horrible. So the stench of his sin reaches to the highest heaven. His complete dishonoring of his father would have been expected to permanently sever any chance of future relationship with his family. And yet, he's so desperate, he's going to go back and face that dishonor, face that shame culture, because he's so incredibly desperate. Go to his father. Could you please hire me? Just I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I remember how it is here, Father, and I'll do anything. Just you let me know. No pigs there to feed, of course, because it's a Jewish community. So he got up and he went to his father. Now it's a long, long walk that this young man has got. Because remember, it's a far country, and he's walking. He has lots of time to think about what a fool he's been. He has a lot of time to rehearse. And I'll bet you he must have rehearsed this line that he said to his father, a gajillion times. A lot. Okay, and he's thinking, okay, how's my father going to react? What's he going to do? I don't know. Can you imagine the anxiety of this? He would have had no food, of course, and no place to stay because he had no money. So he's walking. The longer he walks, the hungrier he gets, and he has no place to stay. He's filthy and he's stinky. Now, if one of my children were to come home, and they, there was no rebellion like this, and they had gotten really dirty, and they had gotten stinky because they're out there sweating all day. They come home. What do? Woo! Yeah, shower, and then we got to clean the shower. Okay, that's the tough part. Now, the father does something here that is shocking to the culture. Okay, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. Are you serious? Wait a minute. No. What is the cultural expectation? It's not compassion. It's not, wait a minute. Okay, this is the way it should be. Hey, wait, is that? No. Hey, shut the gates. Okay, that's the attitude that they would have had toward him. That was the cultural expectation. But the father, he runs to his son, folds his arms around, and kisses the stinky guy. Okay, he does this. The cultural thing, on the cheeks and all this stuff. Oh, it's so good to have you. Okay, now, no, respectable men did not run within the culture. It's one of those fun things I got to learn. Okay, what's that? Okay, well, here's why. Okay, in that culture, men wore robes. And in order, okay, and ladies, you know this, if you're going to run in a long dress, you got to hitch that thing up. And so the Pharisees, I don't want to show off my legs to anybody. That would be embarrassing. So respectable men in the culture didn't run because they had to pull up their robes and show off their muscular legs. Okay? It did not happen. But yet the father is willing to do something that the culture would say disrespectful. He smelled bad. He's probably gross, hasn't bathed in long. Kisses a gross, dirty, stinky cheek. What is he doing? So the son, he has this line. It's all well rehearsed. Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. And he's got to, probably worked on the vocal intonation that he puts on there to make it really good. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. He was right, wasn't he? When he said, I am no longer worthy to be called your son, 100% on beam. And all these Pharisees and teachers of the law, when they're hearing this, they're going, yep, you are. He is not worthy to be called the son. Why is he still there? Get him out. Just make him go away. Didn't this son, this is the shame of it. Didn't this son regard the father as being dead to him? Dad, you haven't died yet. Just go ahead and die. I want your stuff. Terrible that this had happened. But the father said to his servants, now, the father, does he even listen to what his son says here? The son says, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy. The father doesn't even hear this. Okay? It's like, pish posh. No. Hey, servants, quick, bring the robe and put it on him. Bring a ring on his put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for the son of mine was dead and he's alive again. He was lost, he's found. The father is so incredibly excited. He didn't even listen to what his son said. He's got his boy back. Some of the servants must have been running along too because they were there and they weren't just staying up at the house. The servants must have been really confused by this because the servants know the culture. The servants are like, wait, what's he telling us? Wait, no, this isn't how it works. The father's not supposed to be that way. He's supposed to be rejecting the son. He's supposed to be telling us to run him off. The father is supposed to say, servants, pick him up, carry him, throw him in the river or something like that, then come back and you better bathe because you were touching that guy. That was, again, just how hard the culture was. Now, the robe. Again, this is where it's so good to look in the text. The robe was like a kingly type robe. It wasn't just a robe you throw on somebody. It was the ultimate robe that you would bring out for an honored guest. Let's say, who's the quarterback of the Lions? Is it Goff? Who's that? Jared Goff. Okay, so let's say Jared Goff is coming to your home for dinner, and he shows up, and you take out that fancy robe and you put it on him because he's the honored guest. And that robe means that what he asks for, he gets because he's the honored guest. The ring. This ring is a symbol of inclusion and authority. Remember the story with Pharaoh gave Joseph his ring, and so when you gave that ring, that was authority. So this son was given authority in the house. Servants and slaves did not wear sandals. Children, sons, wore sandals. So what is the father doing here? He's taking this fool, this terrible, awful disgrace of a son. My son's here, get the robe, let's restore him. And at this point, the people who are listening, the Pharisees, the teachers of the law, they're grossed out. This is not the way this kind of thing is supposed to work. And then a feast and a party? The younger son is the guest of honor? That's nuts. Why would you do that? The son of mine was dead, he's alive again. Was this son ever regarded as not being a son by his father? His father always regarded him as a son, even though he was doing all these terrible, awful, gross, and disgusting things. I went too far ahead. Yeah, meanwhile, the older son is out in the field. Now, the older son is out in the field. He's working. Okay? He's working. He's running everything. That's his job now because the entire estate is his. His father gave it to him. Everything is his now. So the older son is out in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied. Now, there's multiple ways to read this. You could read it like this if you were the servant. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fatted calf because of him, because he's back safe and sound. It's like, what's the old guy doing? Or it could have been, your brother's back. This is great. I don't know what the tone should be with that. So the older brother, he understands this. And he's very, very angry that this younger scum of the earth brother is being treated like this, honored like a son. Hey, there's only one son in this house, and it's me. Because that son ran off, and he disowned everything. He disowned me. There's only one son in this house. There's not room for two. He would not go in. The older son's been busy working. Everything is his. So his father goes out to him and pleads. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, doesn't say when this my brother, okay? When this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you killed a fatted calf for him. What is the matter with you? Don't you get it? Now, who feels really insulted? The older son. The older son, he owns everything. He's bitter against his father for his father being kind and loving. He does not regard the returned brother as a brother. And the calf was his because everything in the father's estate was given to him. So it's like the fatted calf. That was my calf. And you killed it to celebrate him? And he's irate. The younger son does not deserve this. Does he? No. Doesn't deserve any of this. What does he deserve from his father? Scorn, rejection. And then the older brother. What about me? What about me? What about me? Okay. So the father says, my son. The father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So the father tells the older son, hey, the family relationships are still intact. Now, this does not mean there's not a lot of work to do, okay, to get this son, shaped up and, cleaned up a little bit and to get him back on track as a son of the household. But he's alive. We all thought he was dead. We didn't know what happened to him. So, a few points of summary. The younger son had not shared in his father's values. The younger son didn't care about his father's values, didn't care about his father. Again, hey, Dad, what, can you hurry up and die because I want your stuff? Very shameful thing. The older son did not share in his father's values. Neither son did. Because the younger son comes back and the father is like, this is like the best thing that's ever happened. This is great. Older son, no, it's not. What's the matter with you? So neither son really shared in their father's values. Now the younger son came back and began to share in his father's values. The younger son realized how wretched he was. The older son viewed himself as being righteous, but the older son was also wretched. The younger son had a terrible relationship with his father and came back to it. The older son has a terrible relationship with his father. Okay? So there's two lost sons here, not just one. I think, again, the older son, how dare you restore him to sonship like me? How dare you value him like you value me? What's the matter with you, Dad? What was the father really after? He was after a relationship with his boys. That's all he was really after. He didn't really care about his stuff because he just gave it to his sons. Didn't care about it. What he cared about was his sons. Our take-home thoughts. Number one, beware of thinking that we have a self-righteous, self-generated standing before God. There are some people who would say, if I go before God, I could tell him what a great guy I am. Because I've done this, I've done that, I've done all these things. God should just honor me as a great person because I'm great. At that point, you need to understand that you're not. Both sons, the one who was righteous, so to speak, and the one who was scum of the earth, they both needed to come relationally to their father. Remember the story about the two men at the temple. There's the self-righteous person. He goes and he prays, "Oh, Father, I thank you that I am upright and I'm a good person and that I tithe. And Lord, I'm just wonderful and you're so lucky to have me. I'm not like that tax collector over there." And there's a tax collector and he's in agony of the soul. "Lord, have mercy upon me, a sinner. I know who I am. I know how far I am from you." And recall, Jesus said one of those two men was justified before God, and it wasn't the Pharisee. It was the tax collector who realized the extent of his sin and was repentant. The issue is that of relationship with God. We do not come to God, and we know this. We don't come to God because we are so wonderful and worthy. We come to God because we're sinners and we have no other option. And we need to have the life that he gives to us. We must understand that apart from coming to Christ, we are lost. The older son was just as far away from his father's heart as the younger son was the whole time. Both sons needed to repent and enter into their father's love. Everybody needs to do this. Whether the world might think of, "Hey, you're a great, good person." You're not. You're a sinner. That's okay. Anybody here a sinner? Oh, okay, good. Okay, I didn't want to be left out. So, we need to take a look at this parable and understand that God's love is not fair. Okay? What's fair, what's really fair? Is that we should all be in hell. That's fair. But because God is merciful, he's loving, he's kind toward us. He worked out the way of Christ that we might come to him and enter into full, enthusiastic depth of relationship with him. Make sense? Good. We have a great hymn coming up.